Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hi there. Welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and thank you so much for joining us. The Winnipeg Jets lost 5-2 in what was a pretty uninspired effort, I would say. The Winnipeg Jets wasn't their best game of the season, and we are going to be breaking it down in our little post-game show. To make sure while we're kind of talking, you guys are kind of having your voices be heard. We have the chat up on the screen here. I've made it a little bit bigger just so that, if you're watching on your phones, watching on things, you can be a part of it. If you're listening to this on a podcast, come in on the live stream. It's very fun in here when we get some people going. And before we talk about the game, how it kind of went down, let's shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey. I'll bring a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn not gonna clap in front of the mic fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Friday for your fill-in on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network YouTube channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I say this all the time. If you know how to find a hockey live stream after on YouTube, you can find Hyperdrive Hockey wherever you want. All right, so Winnipeg Jets lost 5-2, pretty uninspired game. I think we're going to take a segment. We're going to start with a segment that I did with Anatan on the Game Over Winnipeg with Calgary, and that's where we're going to do some highlights and lowlights, some people who stood out in this game and some people who weren't great. If you want to say who your highlights and lowlights were, make sure you're doing it in the chat right here. First, let's go with our highlights. I think Nikolai Ehlers played extremely well. He was really good. He was all over the puck, super good in transition, and it seemed like whenever the Winnipeg Jets had something going, he was at the center of it. 2 primary assists tonight. The one won the Niederreiter goal, and then the other one on the DeMello goal. He was kind of the key person in driving the offense tonight, and I think with all his transition things, he was one of the more engaged Winnipeg Jets on this very fine Monday evening in Winnipeg. Not in Winnipeg, they were in Salt Lake. So I think Nikolai Ehlers, extremely good game, and especially since he kind of lost his running mate, Adam Lowry, earlier in the game, he was able to stick on it, be a very good, big part of the offense, and it was nice to see him get a chance to play with Nino Niederreiter. That's something that they've seemed to have really wanted for such a long time. You go back to training camp about 18 months ago when they were trying Cole Perfetti at center. They wanted Nikolai Ehlers to play with Nino Niederreiter before they found out that Nino Niederreiter and Adam Lowry work really well together. We got Josh in here, screen name Back to the Lobby for you. I didn't even watch the game tonight, and I know Logan Stanley was a little late. Logan Stanley, you know what? One of our lowlights. Let's go with the lowlights. The lowlights was like the entire defense. The top 4 really had a big struggle. Thank you so much for commenting, Josh. The Winnipeg Jets defense had such a big struggle, especially at the offensive blue line. At the beginning of the game, they're really good at being kind of aggressive and holding. In like the first 30 seconds, Dylan DeMello had a great stick reach to kind of keep the puck in the offensive zone. But as the game also kind of went on, they had a bunch of fumbles at the offensive blue line, which really kind of hurt them in transition. And with kind of looking back on the LA game, one thing that they really struggled with is in the high ice of the offensive zone, and turnovers there really led the puck coming back the other way. And there was a few turnovers by Sandberg. There was some by Morrissey, Pionk, either just fumbling the puck or having a D-to-D pass that wasn't quite there. And just fumbling those and causing turnovers at the offensive blue line was really tough to see. Another low light for the game. It's hard to like kind of stick to too many low lights, but we gotta get moving in the show here. I gotta say, the top line tonight was very, very quiet, and that's something that we're gonna be kind of diving deeper into in the second period. But the top line for the last few games have been really quiet in terms of being not only just on the score sheet, but just kind of driving play and keeping play in the offensive zone. In the first period, they were kind of all right, but then as the second and third rolled around, it was kind of tough. And I think one thing I joked about on online on twitter.com is that never ever 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 bet on the Jets the game before they play Colorado, because it seems like when they played LA a few games ago, right before they play Colorado, they were just looking past the game. It felt like the Winnipeg Jets were also looking past the game a little bit tonight. And Josh said, from what I heard, the defense fell off after the first. I also heard they were struggling to handle the two-man pressure of Utah. Yeah, for sure. Like up high, they were having turnovers there, and then just the defense as a whole just were not having a great time. All right, so let's kind of go into some more bigger stories into the game here. I think the first thing I want to talk about is Connor Ingram. Connor Ingram was such a joy to watch tonight because for Winnipeg Jets fans, we have this goalie in Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck is this stoic figure. He lets the puck hit him. The puck rarely goes past him. It's just such a calming factor. And I think a lot of people in Winnipeg, whether they're the biggest fans of Connor Hellebuyck or they're not the biggest Connor Hellebuyck fans, they forget the dark ages of Ondrej Pavelec. And Ondrej Pavelec was a guy, he was this goalie, you could tell he grew up watching Dominik Hasek because a lot of times he really tried to emulate that style. And that's what it really felt like watching Connor Ingram tonight. Connor Ingram was just flying out of his net. When he was playing the puck, you had no idea where it was going. And I really thought that if the Winnipeg just shot it at him, they might have a better chance at generating offense than if they kind of took a more stoic, more playoff approach, just almost shooting on the net, see if it goes in. And they kind of got there a little bit later in the game. But Connor Ingram, just such a, not just a complete opposite of what you expect when you think of goaling here and goaltending here in Winnipeg. Just a guy who was out there trying his best, doing so many things. And it was just a fun viewing experience. At the end of the day, sports is entertainment, and it was nice to see a guy just flying all over the ice, and he turned it into a very effective game. Pretty solid for the Utah goaltender. I also think in the first period, when the Jets were having success, they were being very direct. We talked about a little bit earlier in the game, or earlier in the show here. When the Jets are struggling, they're kind of losing the puck up high in the offensive zone. So just kind of, especially the top line, they're kind of known for, or I guess maybe not, maybe they are, but they'll be entering the zone and they'll have a turnover right off the top. They'll try to make a play almost right away. And I thought they did a really good job of being a little bit more direct early. And they were able to just shoot the puck, get it in low. And especially with Vilardi and Mark Scheifele on that line, those are two guys who are really good down low. Mark Scheifele, criminally underrated behind the net and underneath the goal line. And I think with those guys being able to go low to high to either Josh Morrissey or Kyle Connor, they kind of lost a little bit of that grind game that kind of makes Mark Scheifele and Gabriel Vilardi more effective. Harold says 4 lines have to win games. What the hell was that? And you are doing a great job. You know what? Thank you, Harold Peltier. Harold Peltier is here all the time. Really appreciate my man. 4 lines have to win games. What was that? I completely agree. It was so uninspired. And I really do think, again, never, ever, 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 ever bet on the Winnipeg Jets the game before they play Colorado, because they don't want to do it. They don't want to play it. They want to go to Colorado. They want to have a much better time against the team that they kind of are have more of motivation to play. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, it's an 82 game season. It's not like baseball with 162. I couldn't do this 162 times. But, a random game on January 20th, maybe if this game was played in April, we could have a little bit more of alarms kind of going off. But the Winnipeg Jets, they almost have to find a little bit more motivation from the game to game. And then we have, we talked about going down low. And then I want to talk about my favorite play in the first period, and that was the David Gustafsson breakaway. This is a guy who's had a real tough season, had a really hard time getting the lineup earlier. Some injuries to Mason Appleton and our boy Vladimir Nemestikov have been really helping him get into the lineup, and he got a breakaway today. He's not a guy who's known for his speed, and that was super nice. And that was another play where Connor Ingram, the puck kind of just squeaks by him, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on here? And he was just all over the place. Now, again, Connor Ingram, which is such a fun viewing experience. And then in the second period, Adam Lowry got hurt. And that is like Adam Lowry, who is kind of the identity. He's the heartbeat of the Jets. When the Jets are going well, when they're at like full flight, you think back to game 1 against Colorado last year, and the person who really got them going through that game, they won 7-6, but Adam Lowry scored 2 goals. He scored a patent 5-hole goal. He scored one where I think Was that the one where he went off both posts and it landed back in the net because the puck was spinning that way? But when he's kind of not in the lineup, it really throws a wrench in their plans, because especially since he got elevated to second line center, that extra role, he's always going to be matched up against the other team's top lines. But it's just such a, you notice the loss so extremely. And we talk about the Jets playing well when they're playing direct, and he really helps funnel Nikolai Ehlers' kind of chaoticness, I want to say. Chaotic good. And with him out of the lineup, they kind of lose a lot of that, which is really tough to see. And then the first goal of the game, Oli Mata, he shoots the puck. It goes off Dylan DeMello. It looked like it went off Dylan DeMello's chest and in the net. And that's just one of those plays where, you know, goals happen in hockey if there were no mistakes, there'd be no goals. And that was a play where you couldn't really blame anyone for the goal that went in the net. You know, we talk about when Dylan DeMello struggles, it's because or when the defense struggles to not allow a goal, they are not tying up sticks, they're not tying up bodies in front of the net. And I don't know what else you want Dylan DeMello to do. He's holding the stick, he's holding his guy, and it's just a puck that goes off of Dylan DeMello and into the net. Just an unfortunate bounce that goes by Clayton Keller just going the net, drawing bodies to him. And that's going to happen. What I think you have a little bit more control of is the Cooley 2-on-1. And I think this play really starts in the offensive zone, because the defense, Dylan DeMello, he just kind of rims the puck. And Mark Scheifele, he looks like he's going, but he lets it pass him. He lets it go to the point. And usually that's kind of more acceptable. But Josh Morrissey was not in a place to take that pass. So what happens is, we talk about the defense, they fumbled the puck at the blue line. Mark Scheifele has a front row seat. He's gliding all the way back. And there's a 2-on-1 where Logan Cooley is just able to rip a puck. And that's one of those goals where it's like, yeah, the first one, there was things you could do. There's nothing really you could do to kind of stop that play. But on this one, it's just the lack of the uninspired effort. Like Harold Peltier said, what the hell was that? What are you doing out here? What is kind of going on in this game? And the effort from Mark Scheifele was a little bit just uninspired, like a lot of people on the team. Then we'll just keep going for the next goals. Again, the top of the zone, top of the offensive zone. They started playing Pionk and Morrissey together. They're shuffling all the lines. No Lowry. They lost Velarde for a bit. They're just fire drill out there, throwing out combinations, seeing what sticks. And they switched up the defensive pairs. Pionk tries to get it to Morrissey. Then Morrissey gets it in his feet. He gets flat-footed. And then they come in on a race. I believe it was Josh Doan was able to chase down Pionk, knocks over to Hayden, just scores the goal. And that's just a mistake from Pionk, just not being able to get that crisp pass. And they just didn't seem prepared today, weren't making those crisp plays that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets earlier on. Then we move on to the 3-on-2, where Sandberg, again, top of the zone in the offensive zone, has the puck, stumbles, falls, is able to get back, but at that point it's a 3-on-2 where Dylan DeMello needs to cut across the ice in order to kind of take away the pass, but it wasn't enough, and Sandberg comes back. It's a 3-on-2, don't know where the extra forward is, and they make up tic-tac-toe play. Kevin Sawyer said it was kind of like a Chell goal. It was kind of like a video game goal, and that's one of those ones where it's like just everything seeming to go wrong for the Jets. And then at this point, I was thinking, okay, it's so uninspired. They're not scoring at 5-on-5. Again, big problem we're going to talk about in the second period. And they start mixing up the lines. They get Mark Scheifele with Ehlers and Nino Niederreiter. And Nino Niederreiter is such a Band-Aid player for this team right now. When they started moving around, like Adam Lowry going the second line, Nino Niederreiter's kind of taken on this role where he's the Band-Aid. It's kind of like what Matthew Perreault did in the mid-2010s, where if a line's struggling, if they need a jump, you just throw Nino Niederreiter in there, because he's a guy who does things so simply and so direct. And he's just like, if you need a goal to go off your ass, Nino Niederreiter will help you get that one. If you got Cole Perfetti out there and he needs a kind of a play, you just want to throw things at the net so that Nino Niederreiter could bang the puck in. He's so direct, and he's been such a Band-Aid for helping players who might not be at their best, and you can really see that with his Nino Niederreiter's chemistry with Cole Perfetti and his involvement on the plays in this game. The first goal they score, just a nice entry by Ehlers. He tries to make plays on high ice. What does Nino Niederreiter do? He just shoots the thing, goes in the net beautifully. And that's a place where the Jets go from a place of weakness in that high ice, and Niederreiter is able to turn it into a strength. And then you have the second goal where Nikolai Ehlers is just screaming. He wants to make plays. He wants to do the things, and he is able to hold on to. He's able to get the puck across the ice from Dylan Samberg, who gives it to DeMello. Again, the Winnipeg Jets defensive pair switched, and Dylan DeMello just is able to rip it. But it's almost too little, too late, because the Winnipeg Jets haven't been able to have sustained pressure since like the first period, and then Clayton Keller is able to get the empty net goal, 5-2, and then Scheifele takes a high stick. And then he goes after, I believe it was Kesselring, and we'll see if that kind of translates to something in the next game, because they are playing these Utah hockey. I always want to say these Utah hockey club, these Utah hockey something, but they don't have like a mascot. Like you could say these Winnipeg Jets, but you can't say these Utah hockey club. Brutal way to go. All right, so that was kind of the game. Really uninspired effort. It sucked. Let's move on. Let's talk about kind of more long-term themes. What this means for the Jets long-term. I don't want to talk about this game much anymore. It wasn't very fun to watch. But the Winnipeg Jets, we always know they're going to be woken up for those game against Colorado. So very excited to watch the game on Wednesday. And if you're looking for ways to help an upstart media company employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, if you have a few bucks kicking around, and you can head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/the Game Over Network. There you'll find multiple tiers on our Patreon, featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. We have many things. There's extra access, behind the scenes stuff, Discord benefits, merchandise discounts. You can get a mug. I talk about these mugs all the time. I love them. And also, if you don't have any money kicking around, there's just free ways to help the channel. You can go down, you can like and subscribe to the Game Over Network, the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel. Liking and subscribing, super free and easy way to support the channel. It really helps us out, and I really appreciate all 125 of our subscribers, hoping to get to 500, get some monetization in here. All right, let's go to period two. Period two. Okay. Yeah, we talked about the Jets being uninspired, and I want to talk about just quickly about excuses. I hate excuses. I don't think you can really have excuses when it comes to a hockey team. Adam Lowry gets injured, and I don't care. You look at the other side. I mean, I do care. I do care about Adam's health. I want him to be nice. I love when Adam Lowry's on the ice. He is such a joy to watch, isn't how direct his game is. It's something the Winnipeg Jets need a little bit more of, in my opinion. But you look at this lineup, and you look at the team that there was across the ice from them today. The Utah Hockey Club were missing not only Dylan Guenther, who I believe leads them in goals, a guy who's been such a revolution on that power play, a guy who started super hot on one of my fantasy teams. The guy is awesome, just rips goals all the time. And they're also missing their best defenseman, two-time Cup winner, Mikhail Sergachev. And I think when you're missing a guy who's like on pace for a career high in points with 45 points and everything, but it really come to my attention that if you lose one player in Adam Lowry for just one game and it completely blows you down like a house of cards, maybe if that's your thinking as the Winnipeg Jets team, you gotta rethink this whole Stanley Cup quest that you're on. Because I think as good as Adam Lowry is, as much as he is the heartbeat of this team, you have to find ways to kind of break through that. And again, it's a random game in January that I don't think matters too much in the long run. But I think it's just a warning sign for what could be to come. And I think we could be a little bit more hard on this team with this awful effort if it weren't for Saturday. I think Saturday against the Flames, they had a really inspired effort against a team where they didn't really, what am I looking for? Where they didn't really have the same kind of motivation they would against Colorado. And I think one thing that they can do to kind of get a little bit more motivation on this team is, and this is a thing where you're gonna be like, what are you talking about? I think you start Eric Comrie more, because this team, they want to win for this guy. Eric Comrie's lost his last 8, and that sounds insane to suggest that you should put in the goalie who was on an 8-game losing streak. But they must want to win for this guy so bad. They brought him back here. When they brought him back, they talked about how many of the Winnipeg Jets players' wedding parties Eric Comrie was in. And I'm not the biggest guy for guys in the room, stuff like that, the off ice stuff, who's like best friends, whoever. Matt Hendricks, was such a guy where it's like, oh, he's good in the room. But Eric Comrie, like league average stats, right? And if you are the Winnipeg Jets, you need to be able to win with league average goaltending. Even if he's a little bit below that, you need to be able to win with subpar goaltending if you want to win a Stanley Cup, because he's what the teams he's playing against, you should be able to beat with subpar goaltending. You should be able to score your way out of problems. And I think when it comes to like going back to talking about Adam Lowry with the injuries and how to get kind of more out of them, I look back at the 2017 Penguins. That team, they won a whole Stanley Cup without Chris Letang. They had Winnipeg Jet legend Ron Hainsey on their back end, and I think very different teams, the 2017 Penguins and the Winnipeg Jets, but you need to be a little bit more resilient in how much you can go through as a team with injuries. Because if you think you're in the caliber of teams that can win a Stanley Cup, you need to be able to go out there and just win with no matter what they throw at you, especially when the other team is losing their top goal scorer and their best defenseman. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is the Winnipeg Jets haven't been drawing power plays. And I think there's two things that go into that. There's so much like things about reffing that I dislike about this league. And with how hot the Winnipeg Jets power play is, you almost wonder, and this is such an old man hockey way of thinking, that if the refs kind of think twice about giving the Winnipeg Jets power plays. But I think another part of that, the more actual kind of part of this equation, is what did the Winnipeg Jets do tonight against the Flames that kind of would require them to get more power plays? It seems like they're getting about one a game. Usually comes in the third when they're putting on a little bit more pressure. But the Winnipeg Jets tonight, besides the high sticking on Scheifele in the last few seconds, which wouldn't have changed the game at all, they're not doing things to kind of draw these power plays. And I think that's why I talk about when I talk about being direct, when you just get in the zone and you just take a shot, because you're making the defense turn, you're making them do things they don't want to do. And just getting power plays isn't a given. It's not about being equal. You know, if the Utah Hockey Club gets like 3 power plays and you get 0 power plays, it's not because the refs aren't doing things unfair. You need to go out there and you need to work, and you need to be able to do things. You need to skate, go fast, do things, make hits, make plays that make the Utah Hockey Club make mistakes. And especially, again, they're down their best defenseman. They had Oli Mata and was it John Marino as their top pair. You can put pressure on this team in order to make them make mistakes. And I think it's just a big opportunity when you can't find ways to do so with this power play. And then going on that, when you're not able to draw penalties and you can't score 5-on-5 goals, that's a huge problem. The Winnipeg Jets have not scored 5-on-5 goals consistently. You're hoping as a team, you probably want to be scoring like 2 5-on-5 goals a game and hopefully get a power play goal every other game or so. And with the Winnipeg Jets, it's just been non-existent. They did score 2 tonight, which is good, but you think when it matters, they're just not finding the back of the net. You look at that LA game, they got a point out of it. It was a 2-1 game. Their only goal was on the power play. The Flames goal that they scored, a power play goal. I'm not going to go back and think about that right now, but it was either 0 or 1 goals that they scored on 5-on-5. And again, I think you look at the way that Utah scored tonight, and they were so aggressive at the point, and that's something the Winnipeg Jets did super well earlier in the season, and you're kind of wondering, where has that gone? And another thing, too, is just shooting the puck at the net, having it go off DeMello's chest. Where is that been kind of going? It seems like the Winnipeg Jets are kind of going for, they're not the biggest team in terms of going out and getting, like, just firing the puck at the net. They do try to take more kind of optimal shots. You see that in their kind of goals their goals kind of totals versus, like, shots taken totals. But you got to think, like, the Winnipeg Jets just need to take a little bit more of a direct approach in order to get those results that they're looking for. And then the top line. Top line was really struggling tonight. I think that too, just uninspired effort. It's hard to put too much on them just because the whole team wasn't great as well. And then with Lowry hurt, I don't want to get into that because I really think he's coming back next game. We didn't quite see what the exact result or what the exact thing that got him hurt was. There was some speculation around plays from the first period, but we'll kind of see where that kind of leads us going into the next game against Colorado. And I think that's kind of all the things I want to touch on. Let's go into the third period. And if you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure to check the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to this podcast on the podcast channel, please give us a 5-star rating or even leave a positive review. Again, super helpful in just in terms of other people finding the channel, being a part of the chat right here on screen, and just kind of helping us out. All right, and we'll go into the third period here. We'll try to get, for those of you watching, thank you so much. It's creeping up on like quarter to midnight here in Winnipeg. We'll get kind of going here. All right. So for the third period, I can kind of talk about whatever I want, and I want to talk about the Connor McDavid suspension. And I think the Connor McDavid suspension is such a fascinating thing in terms of not only the way the NHL handles its star players, but also in the way that Connor McDavid is kind of revolutionized himself as a player. And I think I want to talk about him as a player first, because he's the type of guy where whenever he's in a playoff series, the other team has no choice but to cheat. I look back at when the Winnipeg Jets swept them was that in the bubble? No, it was the All Canadian division in 2021. And there was so many times where you look at what the Winnipeg Jets did to suppress him. Neil Pionk was on him like a backpack. He would like grab him, hold him, kind of do what Connor Garland did in that kind of video, just kind of making life so uncomfortable for him. And I think what you see with Connor McDavid is just having enough pushback to give it back to the other team. And you look at a guy like Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby, you could get under his skin earlier in his career, and then just once in a blue moon, he'll fight you. He'll do it. I don't think you want to fight that guy. That guy's probably in the gym like every 5 minutes. And I think of going back to kind of that early 2010s series against Pittsburgh and Columbus, where Brandon Dubinsky specifically would just get so under Sidney Crosby's skin. Didn't he make like Team USA in 2016 in the World Cup because he was so good at getting under Sidney Crosby's skin? And so he just got this reputation of Dubinsky could rile him up. And then one day, I'm pretty sure Sidney Crosby just fought him. He just clocked him. And that was kind of the end of that. And I think you think about how that evolution of Sidney Crosby as a player, because that's what they're going to do to you. They're going to try and get under your skin. They're going to do all these things. And I don't think it's a coincidence that later on, he was able to win multiple Stanley Cups, 2 Stanley Cups after that kind of 2013, 2014 era. And I think when you think about McDavid, he's the type of guy earlier in his career, you were kind of able to do that for him. But I think this kind of cross-checking, this kind of suspension for him as a player, we're not in the era of enforcers anymore. We're not going to have a guy over his shoulder that's going to pop you if you do this type of thing to him. That wouldn't have mattered anyway because it was so late into the game. But I think with Connor McDavid specifically, you are going to think twice now, because he will clock you in the head with his stick if you're going to go after him. But I think on the other side of that, with the way the NHL kind of handles its stars and kind of everybody, they let Connor Garland do that. They let Connor Garland rile him up, hold him against the ground, do whatever. And the rationale, what's the rationale? That was a tight game, so you're not going to call a penalty? Absolutely ridiculous. And I think it becomes this whole kind of duality where Connor Garland gets nothing for doing that, but McDavid stick to the head, does whatever. And you're just, what's the story here? Are you saying that you can do whatever you want to Connor McDavid, and then you can just kind of shell it off? He'll get suspended if he retaliates. Are you going to protect your stars? Because not only if Connor McDavid gets injured on that play, or if Connor Garland kind of takes another step, you are not this is going to be, it would be a very different narrative. And then so as a sport too, either he gets injured or he does what he did and he gets suspended. And you're telling me the next Edmonton Oilers game that someone's buying tickets because they want to see people other than Connor McDavid. Maybe Leon Draisaitl could be a little bit of a better example. But Connor McDavid is the face of the league. And I think that they have to give a little bit more respect in terms of what they do. And I think that You look back at the other play he had earlier this week or a couple weeks ago, where he kind of chicken wing Marcus Johansson. I think that's kind of a compiling thing where he's kind of getting out of control. But another stat I heard, and I have to credit Oilers Nation on TikTok for this, that Connor McDavid, where do you think he ranks in terms of penalties drawn per 60 minutes? Out of forwards who have played 10 or more games, how effective is he at drawing penalties? The best player in the world, fastest player in the world, most puck touches when he's on the ice, plays 20 minutes a game. He is 197th. And if you don't think that people are cheating on Connor McDavid every second they can to try and get the puck back from him, giving him little cheap shots, holding him against the ice, it's absolutely ridiculous that he is not like top 5 in terms of drawing penalties, because there's no way to defend that guy. He's an absolute alien. No one can skate as fast as he can, especially with a puck. No one can skate as fast as he can with a puck. Dazzling skill, greatest hands in the league, can tear you apart if you let him. And the only way to feasibly defend against this guy is to cheat, and you can't allow that as a league, especially if he's going to get hurt. And I think it's just absolutely ridiculous that it got to the point where Connor McDavid had to learn how to do all these things. But I think, he's had a lot of recent playoff success because he's learning these lessons. He's learning how to retaliate, learning how to give it back. And I think you see a little bit of that with a player on the Jets like Mark Scheifele as well, a guy who's been able to kind of revolutionize some stuff and get a little bit tougher as his career has gone on. And with that, let's go to the fourth period. This is the part of the show where you can ask me whatever you'd like. You can ask me about, hockey, non-hockey things, Winnipeg Jets trade deadline acquisitions. We're getting close to that time. The Winnipeg Jets had 2 scouts at the San Jose and Boston game. That's kind of interesting. Maybe there might be something there. Maybe not. Maybe they're just 2 guys in the same town. If it was in Boston, that's a pretty hockey-centric place to be. And while you guys are typing your questions, I'm going to do our ad read. And what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over Winnipeg's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique lines. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or you want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee and a toque to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use QR code on stream now. Oh, that's such a good reminder. I always forget to put this up here. Use the QR code on stream now to kind of go around our store, look at our stuff, and see what you got. And it will help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. So as we kind of get some questions here, maybe we'll get some, maybe we won't. We got 3 viewers out there at this time. Guys I liked on Utah today. Guys I could see the Winnipeg Jets kind of going after as low budget free agent options. You think about who the Winnipeg Jets have been kind of linked to this season, and it's been Marcus Pettersson of the Pittsburgh Penguins and Ryan Lindgren of the New York Rangers. I don't even think they need to go that far in terms of getting a top 4 defenseman, because I think at the end of the day, their top 4 is their top 4, and I think it's pretty solid. I think Pionk has some brain farts, but I think in terms of what he brings as a number 4, a number 3 guy, he can do the job. He's kind of shown that. And I don't think you're going to be able to go out there and get a guy who can kind of knock Pionk down the lineup. And I think while Dylan DeMello's been a little bit harder this season, I think he's had a little bit of some tough nights. I think he just lets Josh Morrissey be Josh Morrissey, and I think that's so important for his game. I think Colin Miller is very good as this number 6 defenseman, 5'6" guy. And there were some really nice budget options on the Utah Hockey Club today. I really liked Oli Mata. Oli Mata is a guy I've liked for a long time. Pretty good skater. Doesn't have the offensive punch we thought he could in his youth. He's a guy who gets injured all the time when he was younger. But I really liked his game time. Just a smooth skater guy. Moved the puck really well. And then another depth guy I like, because I think the Winnipeg Jets are looking after something very specific. They're looking after a guy who could be on the PK and probably provide some physicality. And I think that if they went out and got a guy like Ian Cole, a guy with 2 cup rings, older guy to kind of replace Logan Stanley in the lineup, just kind of raise the floor. And what I mean by that is, you think about the Winnipeg Jets, they think their ceiling is the Stanley Cup. And you're just trying to raise the floor, trying to make things more safe. And I think Logan Stanley is a guy where he puts some kind of risk into your game. And you kind of want to take a lot of, you don't want to take necessarily risk out of it, but you want to take because Nikolai Ehlers has a little bit of inherent risk in his game, you know. But I think you want to kind of just raise the floor of what this franchise could be. Is our floor game 5 of the first round, or can we make our floor game 6, game 7? Can we kind of guarantee a certain level of performance in the first round? And I think those two guys could kind of round out the defense in different ways. Get them both. You know, that sounds great. All right, and with that, it is 11:51 here in Winnipeg. I think people are asleep. So let's wrap up this show. Thank you so much for watching if you've gotten here this far. If you are here watching it later, why don't you leave a comment? Tell me what you think of the show. I read all the comments. Sometimes there's not too many, but I love hearing feedback. I love hearing what you guys think. Thank you guys. Thank you, Josh, Harold Peltier, for joining the show, chatting along with me. And our next show is Wednesday. The Winnipeg Jets are playing Colorado at 8:30 in Colorado. Very excited to see kind of what the Winnipeg Jets do, because they always come out to play against that team. So very excited to see what they got. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the show. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching.